If you can hear my voice, the transmitter is still on, the building still has power, and somebody in this region still has a working radio. That list keeps getting shorter every day. I am not going to dress this up. I am not going to hype you. I am going to tell you what I see, what I hear, what people tell me, and what I can confirm with my own eyes when I leave this studio. My name is Daniel Price. I work nights and mornings. I did sports updates, then traffic, then whatever slot they needed covered. Now I do everything because the station stayed on when a lot of things shut off. We are in Louisville, Kentucky. If you are outside the metro, listening from Bullitt County, Oldham County, Jeffersonville, Elizabethtown, Bardstown, Shelbyville, LaGrange, Salem, Corydon, tell yourself one thing. You are not crazy. You are not alone. It feels lonely because all the systems that used to answer you are not answering anymore. Maya Ortiz is sitting 3 feet from me behind the glass. She keeps the board alive, keeps the audio clean, keeps the generator schedule on a yellow legal pad, keeps me from talking too fast when my own head goes hot. She used to do production and weekend music. Now she is the station engineer, the receptionist, the security guard, the person who runs down the hall with a flashlight when a breaker trips. If you hear a second voice in the room, that is Maya. This story did not start with a bang. People keep asking for the moment. They want a clean timestamp. One headline, one final bell. That is not how it went. It went in layers, each layer taking away something you assumed would always be there. First, the money stopped acting normal. Then the fuel stopped acting normal. Then the food stopped acting normal. Then the people stopped acting normal. I remember the first week when the market started dropping in a way even regular folks noticed. I am not a finance guy. I am a radio guy who pays rent and tries to keep a used car running. Still, you could feel it. The big talk shows were suddenly doing segments on margin calls and bond yields with that tight voice they do when they are scared. On my phone, the news apps kept pushing alerts every hour. That was before the phone network started glitching and before the apps stopped refreshing. At the grocery on Bardstown Road, people still bought the same stuff. Cereal, milk, chicken, beer. They complained about prices, then shrugged and paid because plastic cards still worked. The next day, plastic cards worked slower. The day after that, the card reader froze, then came back, then froze again. A week later, the manager had a handwritten sign on the door that said, "Cash only until further notice," and half the people stood there staring because they did not carry cash anymore. I'm going to say something that will irritate some people listening. If you spent years laughing at anybody who kept cash at home, if you spent years saying paper money was dumb because everything was digital, you got trained into dependence. A lot of us did. It felt modern. It felt safe. It was not evil. It was just fragile. One break in a chain and you cannot buy a bottle of water even when you have money sitting in an account you cannot reach. The first hard public change in this region was the banks. You heard temporary closure and system maintenance and network outage. That language kept rolling in. The first Friday it happened, people lined up at ATM machines around St. Matthews and Okolona, and the ATMs either had no cash or spit out a smaller limit than usual. Folks would pull $200, then walk across the parking lot to another machine, then another. People were laughing while they did it, doing that nervous humor thing. That laugh died fast. Then came the bank holiday. That phrase sounds old, dusty, foreign. It landed here with a fresh shine. Banks closed for stability. Transfers delayed. Please be patient. Businesses could not make payroll. People could not pay rent. Landlords still wanted money. Property managers still emailed late notices even when the internet started getting unreliable. Those emails felt insane. Then they felt cruel. Then they stopped coming. If you never ran a small business, here is the part that matters. A lot of companies live on timing. Money comes in, money goes out. A delay of days can kill the whole thing. When the banks started limiting outgoing transfers, when lines of credit got frozen, when vendors demanded cash on delivery, that timing died. People did not get paid. Then people stopped showing up to work. Then the work stopped getting done. That is the real collapse, not a graph. People not showing up. Our station got hit the same way. Advertisers stopped paying. The ad network stopped wiring us money. Corporate stopped answering phones. Our building lease still existed on paper. Our insurance still existed on paper. Our payroll still existed on paper. Paper did not move fuel into a generator. Paper did not keep the lights on. Maya and I started sleeping in the building on an air mattress we found in a promo closet. We did it the third week, then we never really stopped. Let me talk about the power situation because people keep asking how we are still broadcasting. We have a generator behind the building, a commercial unit that used to be there for storms. It runs on diesel. Diesel does not magically appear. Diesel comes from terminals. Terminals get refilled by pipeline, rail, barge, truck. All that depends on payments, parts, staff, scheduling, and comm. You break comm, you break fuel. We are running the transmitter on grid power when grid power is stable. When the grid drops, we switch to generator. We ration runtime. We do not keep every light on. We do not run the full air conditioning. We run fans. We keep the studio equipment on surge protection. Maya keeps a handwritten log of generator hours, fuel level, oil checks, and run cycles. If you hear a low rumble behind my voice, and it means the grid dropped again somewhere in the chain. Maya just slid a note under my mic arm. She wrote, "Fuel quarter tank. Next run window 3 hours, no more. That is our life now. That is how tight things got." One more detail. We used to get diesel deliveries through a regular vendor. That vendor stopped answering phones. Then their voicemail filled. Then the phone line went dead. Then I drove to their yard off Grade Lane and the gate was chained shut with a padlock. No sign, no guard, nothing. People talk about supply chain as if it is some distant thing. You should picture it as a set of boring routines. The guy who shows up at the distribution center, the forklift driver who clocks in, the dispatcher who assigns routes, the mechanic who changes a fuel filter, the accountant who pays invoices. When money got weird, every one of those routines got interrupted. Folks did not quit because they got lazy. Folks quit because their paycheck bounced, because the daycare demanded cash, because the gas station started refusing cards, because their landlord taped a notice to the door. Food shortages in Louisville did not show up as sudden empty shelves everywhere. It hit in patterns. First, imports vanished. Coffee got expensive, then coffee got scarce. Certain medications vanished. Baby formula vanished fast, then returned in tiny amounts, then vanished again. Then the center aisles started thinning. Pasta, rice, canned meat. Toilet paper did the same ugly dance it did during the old pandemic, except this time there was no confident restock behind it. Gasoline turned into its own event. People kept assuming the price would spike, then stabilize. That assumption was trained by old cycles. This one went different. The number on the sign stopped meaning anything because the station would change the price every few hours, then run out. I saw fights at pumps in Fern Creek. I saw a woman crying in a minivan because she needed to get to her mother's house in Indiana and her tank sat below a quarter. And every station on the route had cones at the entrance. The trucking story is the one nobody wants to hear. A lot of your stuff arrives by truck. Your groceries, your medicine, your paper towels, the parts that keep your water treatment plant running, the chemicals that keep that water safe, the chlorine, the pumps, the replacement valves. When truckers cannot get paid, when they cannot get fuel, when they cannot trust that a load will get accepted, they park. When they park, you start running out of things that feel unrelated. I'm going to take a call. Maya is pointing at the phone line. We still have a working phone line, part of the time. A lot of calls drop. If you get cut off, call back. If you cannot call, you can leave a voicemail if the system takes it. We play those when we can. Caller, go ahead. Tell me your first name, where you are, and what you do. My name is Trent Weller. I'm on the south side of Indianapolis right now, parked behind a warehouse that used to take paper products and bottled drinks. I hauled freight for 19 years, mostly Midwest lanes, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee. I used to run Interstate 65 down through Louisville all the time, stop near Brooks, grab coffee, hit the road. I want people to understand something. The trucks did not stop because we all got scared. The trucks stopped because the whole money side broke, then the fuel side broke, then the safety side broke, and a man only needs to get stuck in the wrong place one time to learn a lesson. The first load that went bad for me was 2 weeks ago. It was canned goods. It was supposed to go to a distribution center outside Cincinnati. I got there, and the gate guard told me the computers were down. Then he told me they were not taking freight without a cash payment for unloading. I thought he was joking. He was not joking. The receiver wanted cash in hand right there to cover labor because their payroll system got frozen and their workers were walking out. I do not carry that kind of cash. My dispatcher did not pick up. The broker line went dead. I sat in my cab for 9 hours. I watched other drivers yelling at the guard shack. I watched one driver hand over a wad of cash and get waved in. Then an hour later, he got waved right back out because the warehouse had a fight inside and the forklift stopped. People were shouting. Somebody fired shots. I do not know who. I left. I drove that load back toward the shipper, and the shipper had closed. Their phone was dead. Their lights were off. I had a trailer full of food with nowhere to legally drop it, nowhere to store it, and no fuel guarantee to keep moving. I ended up trading cases of canned goods to a farmer near Franklin for diesel out of a tank on his property. That is where we are. That is normal now. You can call it looting if you want. You can call it barter. I call it surviving a broken contract system. Trent, stay on with me. Do not hang up. I want to keep you on the line for a minute because what you said matters. People keep thinking this is going to snap back once the government announces something, once the banks reopen, once some committee meets. The truck story tells you how deep this goes. When trust breaks, the whole machine breaks. Yeah, trust is the word. I used to roll into a yard with a load, scan my paperwork, sign a tablet, get unloaded, leave. The whole thing ran on trust and systems. Now the tablets do nothing. The guards do not know who is in charge. The yard dogs stopped showing up. The fuel pumps at the truck stops, run dry, or the card network goes down. I had a man in Kentucky try to block the on-ramp with his pickup because he thought we were hauling food to the city and he wanted it for his neighborhood. He stood there in the lane with a rifle, and he was shaking. I could see he did not want to shoot anybody. He just wanted control. I backed up, I took the shoulder, I got around him, then I drove another hour to find a different route. That stuff is happening all over. If you are listening and you are thinking about driving out of town to find supplies, think about that part. Roads turn into checkpoints when people get desperate. Sometimes it is law enforcement. Sometimes it is a group of guys with matching jackets. Sometimes it is a dad who lost his job and thinks this is his one chance to protect his kids. I hear you. I appreciate you. Stay safe, Trent. If you can call again later, do it, because folks trust a trucker more than they trust a talking head. I want to rewind a little because I know some listeners came in late. The collapse in this story is economic. That phrase makes it sound abstract. It is not abstract. It shows up as empty shelves, unpaid workers, and machines sitting still. It shows up as hospitals asking for cash, then asking for supplies instead of cash. It shows up as a water bill nobody can process, then a water main break nobody can fix for 2 days, then a boil water advisory that people cannot read because the internet is down and nobody has batteries for their television remote. The first institution that felt permanent, then suddenly felt thin, was the school system. Jefferson County Public Schools did a delayed start, then remote days, then closures. Not because of weather, not because of a virus, but because transportation contracts failed and because staff stopped showing up. Kids wandered neighborhoods during the day. Some parents were home, laid off. Some parents still had jobs and had no childcare. You could feel tension rising on the sidewalks. Then the city services started wobbling. Trash pickup got inconsistent. You would see bins sitting out for days. That turns into smell. Smell turns into rats. Rats turn into sickness. You can hear people rolling their eyes when I say that because it sounds dramatic. It is not drama. It is sanitation. Sanitation exists because a lot of people show up and do a job that most people do not want. When those people do not get paid, sanitation fails. Police and fire stayed active longer than most. They are still active in a lot of places. Still, their routines changed. The first change was response time. The second change was dispatch confusion. The third change was a selective response. If you called for a break-in, you might get told they have no units. If you called for a wreck with injuries, you got somebody, sometimes late. Ambulances started running out of supplies. Oxygen got scarce. Certain drugs got scarce. I heard a paramedic in the parking lot of Norton Hospital yelling into a phone because he could not get replacement bags for his unit. I'm going to bring in Aisha if her line holds. She called yesterday from the emergency department. She said she would call again tonight with an update. Maya is nodding. That is her on line too. Aisha, you there? I am here. My name is Aisha Khan. I'm an emergency department nurse at a hospital in Louisville. I'm not going to name it, not because I'm scared, because people will show up and it will get dangerous. I want to tell you the medical side of this, since people keep thinking hospitals are some kind of fortress. We are not. We are a building full of tired people who depend on supplies arriving every day. The first problem was staffing. Nurses quit when their childcare fell apart. Nurses quit when their partners got laid off and they had to choose between gas for work and gas for food runs. Nurses quit when their paychecks got delayed and they had to decide whether to keep working for promises. Then the supply trucks started getting late. Then the supplies started coming in wrong. You would open a box expecting gloves, and you would get a box of something else because warehouse sorting went sideways. Then we started rationing. 1 week ago, we started locking the supply rooms, not because staff were stealing, but because everybody was desperate. We had patients coming in who were not sick. They were hungry. They were dehydrated. They were panicking. We had older folks who could not get their blood pressure meds and their readings were through the roof. We had diabetics rationing insulin, showing up confused and sweaty and angry, blaming us because we are the face they can reach. We had a guy show up with an infected tooth and he begged for antibiotics. Then he offered me cash. Then he offered me a gold chain. Then he offered me 2 cans of chili. That is the new economy at a hospital counter. We do what we can, then we tell people we cannot fix the world. I went home this morning and I cried in my car in the parking garage because I realized I do not know how long my job is going to exist in any normal form. Aisha, stay with me. I want to ask you something blunt. Are people dying from the collapse itself, not from violence, not from some new disease, just from the system failing? Yes, they are. People are dying from missed dialysis. People are dying from untreated infections. People are dying from stress plus pre-existing conditions. People are dying from dehydration because they are older, and they live alone, and the home health aides stopped coming. People are dying from bad drugs, counterfeit stuff, because when legit pharmacy supply gets thin, the street fills the gap. We had 2 overdose cases yesterday where the family swore the person only took what they bought from a neighbor who said it was a pain pill. It was not. Another thing, wound care. People used to come in for wound care visits, get their supplies, go home. That routine is breaking. Wounds that used to heal are turning nasty. We are seeing more sepsis. We are seeing more amputations being discussed. That sounds extreme. It is not extreme when you have a foot wound and no clean dressings and no antibiotic that works. I am telling you this so you take small injuries seriously. Clean them. Keep them clean. Do not pretend you will just go to urgent care in the morning, because urgent care is closing. They are closing quietly. Signs go up, doors lock, staff move on. That is heavy. Thank you for saying it straight. One more question, then I will let you go. What should people do at home right now today if they want to avoid becoming a medical emergency? Water, food that keeps. Keep your chronic meds organized. Do not skip doses to stretch unless a doctor told you. Keep a written list of your meds and your conditions because electronic records will not follow you if the network fails. Keep soap. Hand hygiene still matters. If you have a fever and breathing trouble, do not wait until you collapse. If you have chest pain, do not wait. Keep a basic first aid kit and actually open it and learn it. If you have elderly neighbors, check on them. I know people hate hearing that community line. Still, right now, a knock on a door can prevent a death. One more thing. Keep calm when you come to a hospital. We are not your enemy. We are not hiding supplies from you. We are drowning. The more calm you are, the more we can help. Aisha, I hear you. Thank you. Stay safe. Call again when you can. That is the medical picture from inside the building. I want to zoom back out to the money side for a minute because people keep asking, why did the currency become worthless? That phrasing gets thrown around, and it makes folks imagine wheelbarrows of bills and cartoon inflation. Sometimes it looks that way. More often it looks subtle first. It looks like prices changing daily. It looks like stores refusing returns. It looks like merchants charging one price for cash and another price for card. It looks like employers paying partially in cash, partially in store credit, partially in we owe you. In the early days, central banks tried to calm things. They pumped money into the system, cut rates, opened lending facilities, told everybody they would backstop liquidity. That language matters in finance circles. For regular people, it meant the big institutions got support while the regular person still could not withdraw their own money without a limit. It created anger. That anger turned into bank runs. Bank runs are not just crowds. Bank runs can be silent too, people transferring funds out in apps, people wiring to safer places. When everybody tries to exit the same door, the door breaks. Then came capital controls. You might not have heard that term where you live, but you felt it. Limits on withdrawals, limits on transfers, delays on payments, restrictions on buying foreign currency. It was sold as temporary. Everything was temporary. Temporary became normal. The companies that depended on constant short-term borrowing started falling first. You know their names, even if you never thought about their balance sheets. Big retailers, shipping firms, airlines, logistics contractors. They finance inventory. They finance fuel. They finance payroll. They depend on cheap credit and stable demand. Demand fell because people got scared. Credit tightened because lenders got scared. The circle closed. When a big employer misses payroll in a town, that town changes fast. I drove out toward Shepherdsville one afternoon to check a rumor about a distribution center sending workers home. The parking lot was packed, not with cars leaving, but with cars sitting. People were standing in small clusters smoking cigarettes, staring at their phones, trying to refresh an account balance that would not update. A security guy walked the line telling people to go home. People yelled that they needed their last check. The security guy did not have it. He had a flashlight and a cheap vest, and a voice that sounded tired. On the way back, I stopped at a gas station near the interchange. They had fuel, barely. They were letting people buy 10 gallons. The clerk had a baseball bat behind the counter. He was not smiling. A handwritten sign said cash only. A second handwritten sign said no refunds. A third sign said no bathroom. That third sign matters more than you think, because when places shut bathrooms, it means they stop trusting the public. That trust line breaking changes the feeling of a whole city. The next phase was the quiet shutdown of institutions nobody thinks about until they fail. The credit bureaus, the payroll processors, the payment networks that sit between your card and your bank, the data centers that keep those networks running. You do not see them. You just assume they exist. When workers in those places stop showing up, when diesel deliveries to those places get delayed, when a transformer fails and no replacement arrives, your digital money becomes a ghost. It still exists on paper, still exists in some database, yet you cannot touch it. People started making local workarounds fast. Churches became food hubs. Mutual aid groups popped up on neighborhood bulletin boards. Then the internet got shaky, and those groups moved to paper flyers, then to word of mouth. Some neighborhoods started doing nightly patrols. Some apartment complexes hired private security, paid in cash pooled from residents. Some areas saw scams. People offering cash-out services for a fee, people promising to convert bank balance into cash. A lot of that ended with somebody losing everything. Maya and I started using the station as a bulletin board. People would call and leave a message. Pharmacy on Dixie Highway has insulin today. Cash only. Bring your prescription paper. Grocery on Preston has eggs. Limit 2 cartons. Shelter at the fairgrounds needs blankets and canned food. We would read what we could verify. Verification became hard because you cannot just check a website anymore. You have to drive there, ask, look, listen. Here is a detail you might not expect. When the economy broke, batteries became gold. Not because people suddenly loved gadgets, because every device in your life depends on power, and power depends on fuel, and fuel depends on money, and money depends on trust. A simple flashlight with good batteries became safety. A radio with fresh batteries became connection. I have watched grown adults argue over a pack of AA batteries at a hardware store near Hikes Point. The hardware stores got cleaned out in a way that told you what people actually fear. Not decorations, not paint colors, water storage, propane bottles, camp stoves, extension cords, generator oil, door locks, screws, plywood, chains. People were building little fortresses around ordinary lives. Some of them did it calmly. Some of them did it angry. Some of them did it too late. I'm going to tell you about my own neighborhood since I keep asking you to share yours. I live in a small rental house in Beachmont, South End. I used to know my neighbors in the polite way. Wave, small talk. That was it. When the bank holiday hit, when the grocery shelves got weird, my street turned into a group chat in real life. A guy named Russell across the way started doing runs to a farm stand. An older woman named Denise had a deep pantry because she grew up poor. She started trading canned goods for help carrying water jugs. A younger couple down the street ran out of formula and people showed up with options. That part made me proud. Then 2 houses got broken into on the next block. That part made everyone quiet. Break-ins changed the vibe more than any headline. The first week people blamed outsiders. Then they realized it could be anybody. It could be a kid from 3 streets over. It could be a guy whose paycheck got frozen and whose car got repossessed and whose wife left. People stopped leaving packages on porches. Then packages stopped arriving anyway. People started sleeping in shifts without talking about it. Lights stayed off. Dogs barked more at night. You might be wondering why I keep talking about neighborhoods instead of national politics. I'm doing that on purpose. National leaders can talk on television, can hold press conferences, can promise rescue. Those words do not put diesel in a truck in Louisville. Those words do not deliver antibiotics to a clinic in Shepherdsville. The world right now is local. Your safety is local. Your food is local. Your trust is local. The moment the currency really started feeling worthless was when stores stopped believing it would buy them replacement inventory. Money is a claim on future goods. When you do not believe future goods will arrive, you stop accepting the claim. That is what cash refusal really means. In the third week, I saw a farmer's market vendor refuse cash and ask for salt, diapers, and fuel. I asked him why. He said he had a shoebox of cash at home and he could not buy tractor parts with it, so what was it worth? Barter took over fast, with its own ugly problems. Barter means you need what the other person wants. Barter means you need to trust the other person will not rob you. Barter means disputes get personal fast. It also means some people become powerful because they control a bottleneck. Fuel is a bottleneck. Medicine is a bottleneck. Water treatment chemicals are a bottleneck. Ammunition is a bottleneck. Those things became currency in a lot of places. That is dangerous currency because it pulls violence toward it. Maya is mouthing that we have a voicemail from Trent. We recorded it earlier. I am going to play part of it, then I will react. It is long. That is fine. You need long reality right now, not short clips. Daniel, it is Trent again. I could not get through live. I am leaving this message because I made it down through southern Indiana into Louisville earlier today and I saw the situation near the fuel terminals by the river. People need to hear it. There were tankers lined up and not moving. There were security trucks parked at the gate. I talked to a guy I know who used to haul fuel. He said the terminal had product. They had gasoline and diesel in the tanks. Still, they could not load it out the normal way because the payments were not clearing. The company that insures the loads pulled back, and they were worried about drivers getting hijacked once they left the gate. He said law enforcement showed up and tried to set up an escort system. Then they realized they did not have manpower. He said the terminal started doing a limited schedule, only loading known customers, only loading for public services, only loading for whoever showed up with a letter from somebody official. I watched regular people sitting in cars outside the fence, staring at the tank farm lights, because they could see fuel sitting there, and they had empty tanks. I watched a man walk up to the fence and scream that his wife needed to get to dialysis. A guard told him to leave. The man did not leave until 2 police cars rolled up. That is where the country is. Fuel exists. Fuel cannot move. Fuel cannot move because trust and payment and safety broke. That message is a whole lesson. You can have the physical product. You can have gasoline in a tank. Still, you cannot get it to people if the invisible layers break. The invisible layers are boring when they work. Insurance, dispatch, contracts, payment rails, security, parts, people. You lose any one layer, you get paralysis. I want to talk about unpaid workers for a minute because it sounds clinical. Unpaid worker is a human. It is a woman who cleaned hotel rooms and now cannot buy groceries. It is a guy who fixed elevators and now cannot pay his mortgage. It is a teacher who still cares about kids and still cannot keep driving to school on hope. When payroll broke, it was not just paychecks, it was dignity. People will keep going for a while on pride. Pride runs out when your kid asks for food. I saw it at a Kroger in the Highlands. A cashier told the customer her card did not go through. The customer tried again. It did not go through. The cashier looked embarrassed because she thought she would get blamed. The customer got red in the face and started yelling that she had money. The cashier said, "I believe you." The manager walked over with a tired smile and said the network was down. The customer threw a bag of bread on the conveyor and walked out. That is the collapse. In one scene, 2 people angry at each other because a third invisible thing died. Institutions shutting down quietly is the creepiest part. You expect a siren. You expect an announcement. You do not get it. You get a door locked on a Tuesday and a paper sign that says closed due to staffing. You get a clinic voicemail that says, please call back during business hours, even when business hours never return. You get a library posted schedule that still lists events that will never happen. The world keeps its old skin for a while, then it sheds. Our station became a place people physically walked to. That sounds strange if you grew up with phones doing everything. Still, once the networks got unreliable, once the internet got spotty, people started walking in and asking if we could broadcast a message. The first person was a man in his 60s named George. He was shaking. He said his son drove to Cincinnati for work and never came back. He wanted us to say his son's name on air and ask anyone to report. We did. We never got an answer. George sat in the lobby for 2 hours anyway, listening, hoping. Then came the people asking for help in ways that felt new. A woman asked if we could announce she would trade a gold ring for antibiotics. A man asked if we could announce he would trade a generator for baby formula. A teenager asked if we could announce he found a dog and wanted to return it. That teenager might be the most normal thing I heard all week, and it nearly broke me. We started writing everything down on a corkboard in the hallway. Because our computers were not reliable, we wrote dates in words. We wrote names. We wrote phone numbers when phones worked. We wrote meeting points when phones did not. We wrote warnings, too. Avoid gas station at corner of... We avoided giving exact addresses when it would invite violence. We learned that lesson early. Here is the part where people might accuse me of fear-mongering. I'm going to say it anyway. The collapse of the money system is not just about buying stuff. It is about coordination. Money is a coordination tool. It tells people what to do, where to move resources, how to plan. When that tool breaks, you still have needs, you still have supply, you still have labor. You lose the map that connects them. People then try to rebuild that map locally with favors, with barter, with enforcement. Enforcement can get ugly. In parts of Louisville, groups started doing resource protection. Some of it was decent, neighbors guarding a food pantry from theft. Some of it was a shakedown, men in trucks telling corner stores they owed security fees. If you do not pay, your windows get smashed. That is not new in human history. It is just new in your daily life if you grew up thinking police always show up and courts always work and banks always process. Maya asked me earlier if we should stop calling this an economic collapse and start calling it what it feels like, a slow failure of normal life, a long emergency, a drawn-out break. I told her the label matters less than the actions people take. Still, words shape how people respond. If you think this is a weekend crash, you wait it out and you run out of food. If you think this is a long emergency, you ration, you plan, you talk to neighbors, you stop wasting fuel. I'm going to share what we did at this station because it might help you where you are. We made a list of priorities. Keep broadcast on as long as possible. Keep ourselves safe enough to keep broadcasting. Keep our fuel, because fuel is our lifeline. Keep a low profile, because desperate people will target any building they think has resources. Keep water stored, because municipal water pressure can drop if pumps fail or if power fails at treatment facilities. We filled every container we had. Old promo coolers, water jugs, clean trash cans lined with bags. We labeled them. We kept bleach, plain unscented, and we wrote mixing instructions on paper. We stopped assuming that we could drive anywhere on a whim. We started bundling errands. We started scouting routes during daylight. We started parking our cars nose out for quick exit. That sounds dramatic. It is just how you adapt when you cannot count on a calm street. I watched the first real barter market form in a church parking lot near New Albany. It started with 2 tables, then 5, then 20. People brought canned food, bottled water, batteries, tools, diapers, tampons, propane canisters, pain meds, antibiotics, fishing gear, clothing. People wrote what they wanted on cardboard. Trade for fuel, trade for eggs, trade for pet food. There were arguments. There were also moments of kindness. A man gave away a bag of rice to an older couple who looked lost, then 2 teenagers tried to snatch a box of batteries and got chased off. That market had a security volunteer with a whistle. A whistle is not much. Still, it was a start. Within days, that market got organized. Somebody set rules. Somebody collected a small entry donation of food to fund a community pot. Somebody posted a sign that said, "No weapons visible." People still carried. They just kept it hidden. That is the balance you live in now. You want safety. You also do not want panic. The first local power seizure story I confirmed came from a small town south of us, near the Tennessee line. I will not name it because they are barely holding it together. A group of locals took control of the only fuel station with a working tank and started rationing fuel by household. They said they were doing it to prevent outsiders from draining it. Outsiders heard and tried to push in. The group posted armed guards. A county deputy tried to intervene. He got told to leave. The deputy left. After that, the rationing held for a week, then the station ran dry anyway. The conflict did not create fuel. It only created enemies. That is one of the premises I want to challenge in real time. A lot of people think force fixes scarcity. Force can control distribution for a short period. Force does not create supply. If your town is low on fuel, guarding the pump might buy time. Still, the tank empties unless a delivery arrives. Deliveries depend on the bigger system. If the bigger system stays broken, your best move is reducing need, not fighting over scraps. That is not a moral lecture. That is math. The next question people ask is, when does it turn violent? It already did in pockets. It does not turn into movie chaos everywhere at once. It turns into small, hard choices. A guy stealing formula. A woman shoplifting because her bank balance is trapped. A group looting a closed pharmacy. A man defending his home with a firearm because he heard glass break at 2 a.m, and he is done trusting anybody. Violence spreads when people lose hope and when they think there is no consequence. Consequences used to be courts and jobs and reputations. Now consequences are neighbors and fear. I heard a rumor 3 days ago that a neighborhood in West Louisville set up a roadblock and started charging a pass toll in food. I drove out because I do not repeat rumors without checking when I can. I found the roadblock. It was 2 dumpsters pulled into the lane and 3 men with reflective vests and baseball caps. They were not gangsters. They looked tired. They asked me what I was doing. I told them I was a radio host checking conditions. They told me to turn around unless I had business in that area. I asked who put them in charge. One of them shrugged and said, "Nobody. We live here." That is the new government in a lot of places. Whoever shows up. I turned around. I did not argue. If you are traveling right now, that is my advice. Do not argue with a roadblock. Your pride will not feed your family. Find another route. Go home. Negotiate calmly if you must. Keep your hands visible. Do not escalate. Maya just whispered that the grid is stable right now, so we can push the broadcast a bit longer before we switch to generator again. I'm going to use that time to do one thing the internet used to do: give you practical information in plain language. If you still have money trapped in an account, treat it as a record, not a resource. If you can withdraw some cash, do it in small, consistent amounts and do not flash it in public. If you have items people need, do not advertise them widely. If you need to barter, do it in daylight, in a public area, with at least one other person present. If you depend on medication, write down your prescription names and dosages on paper. If you have a vehicle, keep your tank above half when possible. That advice used to be for winter storms. Now it is daily survival. If you run a small business and you are still operating, be honest with your staff. Do not promise pay you cannot deliver. If you can pay in a mix of cash and goods, talk openly. People can handle hard truth better than fake calm. Fake calm gets you robbed by your own workforce when they realize you lied. That is not a threat. That is a pattern. Now I want to talk about currencies become worthless in a way that fits what is happening on the ground. In some places, paper currency is still accepted. In other places, paper currency is accepted only for small purchases. In other places, paper currency is treated as kindling. The change depends on supply expectation. If a store thinks trucks will resume next week, they still want cash. If a store thinks trucks will not resume, cash becomes a joke. Some communities started printing local script. That is not new. Company towns did it in the old days. It can keep commerce moving within a small area. It also creates abuse if one group controls issuance. I heard of a suburb outside Lexington where a neighborhood association started issuing tokens backed by a stockpile of food. People could earn tokens by doing work, then spend tokens at a weekly market. It worked for a few weeks. Then rumors started that the stockpile was smaller than advertised. Trust cracked. People demanded redemption. The association could not redeem. It got ugly. That is what happens when you recreate banking without rules and without transparency. So here is another premise to challenge. People keep believing there is a quick, clever fix. There is not. There are only trade-offs. Local tokens can help, still they can also become a scam. Barter can help, still it wastes time and fuels conflict. Cash can help, still it draws theft. Every tool has a cost. Pick the tools that fit your area, your people, your risk level. I want to bring it back to the human side again, because finance talk makes people numb. Tonight, before I came in, I stopped at a Meijer in Jeffersonville. The parking lot was half full. The store was open. The shelves looked normal at a glance. Then you walked the aisles and you saw the holes. No coffee, no infant formula, no over-the-counter, cold medicine, limited bottled water, meat section thin. A sign on the door said the store would close early due to staffing. 2 employees stood near the front watching customers with a flat stare. Security now wears a vest and carries handcuffs. 6 months ago, you never saw that. At checkout, an older man argued with a cashier about the limit on rice. He said he had a big family. The cashier said everybody had a big family now. The man demanded to speak to a manager. The manager came over and said the limits were corporate policy. The man said corporate could kiss his ass. The manager did not react. The manager looked exhausted. He repeated the policy. The man paid, then muttered threats. He was not a bad person. He was stressed, scared, embarrassed, and feeling powerless. Powerlessness turns people into strangers. In the studio, Maya is watching the hallway monitor. We set up a cheap camera system, not fancy, just enough to see the front door and the back lot. People have tried the doors at night, not many. Still, enough. We keep them locked. We keep a crowbar near the back entrance. We keep a fire extinguisher near the front. That is our security plan. No fantasy. Just basic tools. I'm going to say something personal now. I get scared. I get angry. I get tired. I keep talking anyway because silence is worse. If the broadcast dies, people lose a common point. A common point reduces panic. It gives you a sense that the world still has some order, even if the order is just a tired guy telling you the truth with a microphone in front of him. You might wonder why the station stayed on when others went dark. Part of it is luck. Part of it is our transmitter location. Part of it is Maya's stubbornness. Part of it is that we had a fuel tank on site already for storms, and we treated it as sacred. A lot of places burn through their backup fuel running full comfort loads. We did not. We ran minimum. That is the only reason I'm talking to you right now. Here is a new development from today. The Ohio River barge traffic slowed down hard. That matters because barges move bulk goods cheap: grain, fuel, chemicals. If you see fewer barges, it means fewer bulk deliveries. A friend of a friend works near the docks. He said crews were short, insurance got weird, and some companies refused to move cargo without payment guarantees. Again, invisible layers. Let me explain in plain language why payment guarantees matter. A trucker, a barge operator, a warehouse worker, they all need to believe they will get paid. They also need to believe they can spend that pay on something real. If pay is delayed, if pay is frozen, if pay is stuck in a bank that limits withdrawals, work stops, it is not laziness. It is survival logic. You cannot eat an invoice. People keep asking me, is this the end? I do not know. I do not do prophecy. I do patterns. Here is what I think, based on what I see. Some areas will stabilize into local systems. Some areas will fall into pure predation. Some areas will get help from outside. Some areas will be ignored. The national economy that used to connect every place to every other place in real time is not coming back fast. That is not pessimism. That is just how long it takes to rebuild trust, rebuild logistics, rebuild spare parts stock, rebuild skilled labor pools, rebuild boring routines. If you want a clearer picture of what not coming back fast looks like, I can give you the ugly calendar version. When a transformer blows and you cannot get a replacement because the factory is short on copper and the trucking firm wants cash, and the insurance company wants a guarantee and the local utility cannot access its own accounts. That is not a few days repair. When a water treatment plant runs low on chlorine, and the vendor refuses to ship without payment and the plant cannot pay, that is not a few days problem. When hospital supply contracts break, and the warehouse that holds gloves and saline cannot staff night shifts, that is not a few days problem. This is Daniel again. I am back on the air after a generator off window. If you heard silence for a while, it was not a drama move. It was fuel. Maya has the timer and she sticks to it even when I want to keep talking. That is why we are still here. It is early morning now. I do not have a clock you can trust because half the clocks in this building blink and reset every time the grid hiccups. I'm going by the light outside in my own body. The sun is coming up. You can hear fewer cars. You can hear more birds. You can hear every so often a siren that sounds further away than it used to. I'm going to do the thing we keep doing. Start with what I know, then open the phones. If you are calling, do the basics. Name, location, job, what you are seeing. If you are telling a story, tell it in full. Do not rush. People need full context right now, not clipped highlights. First update. The water situation just changed for a big chunk of the region. Last night, the city issued a boil water advisory for parts of Louisville Metro. If you do not have internet, you might not know. If you do not have television, you might not know. This is why radio matters. If your water is coming out cloudy, if it smells off, if pressure is low, treat it as unsafe. Boil it, if you can. If you cannot boil, do not pretend. Use bottled if you still have it. If you have plain, unscented bleach, you can disinfect small amounts if you follow correct mixing, and I'm going to repeat it slowly later on a loop so you can write it down. Second update. Fuel rationing is now official at multiple stations across Jefferson County and into southern Indiana. 10 gallons at some places, 5 gallons at others. Some places refuse to sell to anyone without proof you work for a public service. People are forging proof. That is already happening. Store owners are already responding by refusing everyone. It is getting tighter by the hour. Third update. The bridges are choke points now. If you commute between Louisville and Indiana using the Abraham Lincoln Bridge, the Kennedy Bridge, the Clark Memorial Bridge, expect delays, checkpoints, random closures, and detours. Some closures are police. Some closures are temporary barricades thrown up after wrecks that do not get cleared fast. Some are groups of locals controlling traffic. I am not telling you this to scare you. I am telling you so you do not drive into trouble with your kid in the back seat and a trunk full of groceries. Maya is pointing at a note. She wants me to say this part clearly. We are not giving out locations of fuel caches. We are not giving out addresses of private stockpiles. We learned that the hard way after the corkboard in the hallway turned into a treasure map for the wrong kind of people. We will share public resources and general warnings. If you want to arrange a trade, you do not do it on air with full details. You can leave a number if phones still work, or you can use a public meeting point and a time window and keep it smart. Okay, phones are open. Caller, you are on. My name is Eddie Hanley. I work at a water treatment facility. I am calling from the parking lot because I do not want to tie up internal lines, and I do not want my voice on the plant radios. I heard you mention the boil water advisory, and I want to explain what it means because people keep misunderstanding and they are doing dangerous stuff. The reason for the advisory is not that somebody dumped poison in the river. The reason is basic operations are failing in small ways, and small failures stack. The plant uses chemicals and systems that depend on deliveries and power stability and staff. We are short on chemical deliveries. The shipments that used to show up twice a week are not showing up on schedule. We are also short on parts for pumps and valves. When a pump goes down, it can reduce pressure. Reduced pressure can let contaminated water in through leaks in pipes. That is where the risk comes from. When pressure drops, bad water can enter the system through cracks that were always there and never mattered because pressure was steady. Now pressure is not steady. So boiling is about killing organisms, bacteria, viruses, parasites. Boiling does not remove chemicals. Boiling does not fix heavy metals. It is about biological risk. People keep saying, I boiled my water so it is safe. It is safer for that risk, yes. It does not make it perfect. The biggest issue right now is people ignoring it because they think it is overreaction, and then they get sick, and then the hospitals get hammered, and then nurses get hurt, and then the whole system degrades faster. Eddie, I want you to stay with me. You are the first water plant voice we have had on air. People are going to listen hard. Tell me what people should do in a normal home with limited fuel when they cannot boil all day. You prioritize. Drinking water and cooking water first. You do not waste boiled water on laundry. You do not waste boiled water on bathing. You can bathe with tap water if you do not swallow it, and you keep it out of cuts. Still, I know people cannot control kids perfectly, so be cautious. If you have a baby, you are careful. If you have immune issues, you are careful. For boiling, you bring water to a rolling boil. Not steaming, not hot, rolling. Keep it there for at least 1 minute. If you are in higher elevation, it can be longer. But here, 1 minute is the usual guideline. Then cool it covered. Keep it in clean containers with lids. Do not put boiled water into a dirty jug and pretend it is safe. Clean the jug. Soap and water. Then rinse. Then if you have bleach, sanitize the container. People also need to understand, if the water is cloudy, you can filter through a clean cloth before boiling. That removes particles. It does not disinfect. You still boil. And do not go buying random pool chemicals and dumping them in your bathtub. I heard people talking about that. That can hurt you. Use plain, unscented household bleach only if you know the right amounts and you are using it for disinfection, not as a drink additive in a sloppy way. If you are unsure, boil. That is exactly the kind of detail people need. One more question, Eddie. Are you seeing staff shortages at the plant? Are you seeing the same payroll and fuel pressures? Yes. We are losing people. Some are sick. Some cannot afford to come in. Some have kids at home. Some got threatened in the parking lot because people blame us for bad water. They think we are hiding clean water. We are not hiding anything. We are trying to keep a river water system safe with fewer supplies and fewer hands. Another problem? The plant has backup generators, but those generators need fuel. Fuel deliveries are not guaranteed. We are working with city emergency management to prioritize fuel for the plant, but that turns into politics fast on the street. People see a fuel truck go to the plant, and they ask why their gas station is empty. They do not understand that if the plant fails, it is not just a few homes. It is the entire system. Then you will not have water pressure for fire hydrants. You will not have water to flush. You will not have basic sanitation. That is when you get disease outbreaks. Not a dramatic plague, just real gastrointestinal illness, skin infections, things that spread when people cannot wash hands and toilets back up. Eddie, I appreciate you. Stay safe. Walking back into work. If anything changes, call us again when you can. That call matters because it connects the dots. When people say economic collapse, they picture banks. They do not picture water pressure. Still, it is the same chain. Money breaks contracts. Contracts break deliveries. Deliveries break operations. Operations break health. Now I'm going to tell you about a catastrophe that hit closer to home than people expected. Last night around dusk, a fire broke out at a distribution facility near the outskirts. I am not naming the exact site because crews are still responding and crowds have been trying to gather. I can tell you what I saw. I drove near it with Maya's permission because we needed confirmation, not rumors. We stayed at a distance, smoke column visible from miles away. You could smell burning plastic and insulation. Fire trucks were there. Fewer than you would expect. A couple of private security vehicles were there. Police were trying to block entrances. People were standing on the shoulder watching. Some were filming. Some were just staring. I talked to a firefighter I know, off the record, and he told me the fight was not just the fire. The fight was water supply and manpower. Hydrant pressure was inconsistent in that area because of the pressure issues Eddie just talked about. They were shuttling water. Shuttling water costs time. Time costs buildings. The rumor in the crowd was that the facility got hit by looters. Something went wrong and a fire started. I cannot confirm the start. What I can confirm is the building burned hard, and whatever inventory was in it is gone. That is not just a property loss. That is a food and supplies loss for everyone. Maya has been quiet for a while. I'm going to bring her in because her view matters, and she has been tracking the station's own safety issues. Maya, tell them what happened while we were off air. We had someone try the back gate again. 2 people, I think. I saw movement on the camera. They were not just walking past. They tested the latch. They shined a light toward the generator pad. When the motion light kicked on, they froze, then they backed off. They did not run. That part bothered me. They looked calm. They looked like they were checking what we have. I do not think it was random. I think someone heard we are still on the air and assumed that means we have fuel. People connect those dots fast. I also got a text from my cousin in Cincinnati. The message came through hours late, and she said there was a run on pharmacies and a fight at a big grocery, and police got overwhelmed. She said people are forming lines outside places before sunrise, and some store managers are letting employees shop first before opening because employees are not going to work if their own pantry is empty. That is where it is headed here too. Maya, you and I talked about changing our schedule. Tell them the decision we made because it is part of how people should think. We are not broadcasting at predictable times anymore. That is the decision. We are going to do more shorter windows, different hours, so no one can plan around our generator run. We are also moving fuel, not all of it, but enough, into smaller containers in a locked interior closet so if someone breaches the generator pad, they do not get everything. It is not perfect. It is a risk. Still, having one big obvious tank outside is a bigger risk. We are also not letting random people into the lobby. We used to, we cannot. I hate it. Still, we cannot get cornered. If people want to leave a message, we will take it through the door or over the phone. That is realistic, and it hurts because radio is supposed to be open, and I grew up thinking stations were community spaces. The world changed. We adapt or we get swallowed. I want to open lines again. Trent, if you are listening, call in when you can, because the interstate situation just shifted overnight and I want a road perspective. Aisha, if you get a break, call too. Caller, go ahead. It is Trent. I am back. I got your message through another driver. The road perspective is this. Interstate 65 northbound had a jam near the county line because a wreck sat there for hours. Not because it was a massive pileup, it was a regular two-car wreck. The reason it sat is because tow services are not rolling the way they used to. Tow drivers want cash. Insurance adjusters are not answering. Police do not want to get stuck babysitting a wreck when they have calls stacking. So wrecks become roadblocks. People then start doing shoulder driving. Shoulder driving causes new wrecks. That cascade is happening all over. Another thing, way stations and rest areas are turning into camps. Some are peaceful, some are not. I stopped at a rest area south of Elizabethtown, and there were families sleeping in cars, and there were also guys walking between vehicles trying door handles. I chased one off. He did not run far. He just moved to another row. People need to understand, travel is risk now. Even if no one is hunting you, the basic safety net is gone. If you run out of gas, you are not calling a roadside assistance number and getting help in 30 minutes. You are sitting. Sitting makes you a target. Trent, I want you to tell the listeners the most practical road rules you have right now. The stuff you actually do, not the stuff people post online. I keep it simple. I do not drive at night unless I have to. I do not stop in isolated places. I do not let my fuel drop below half, and if it does, I cut my day short and I find a safe place to park with other people. I keep water in the cab. I keep a paper map, because phone service drops and the navigation apps are wrong when roads get blocked. I do not get into arguments at pumps. If someone is acting wild, I leave. I also keep my truck locked always, even when I am walking 10 feet. People are testing doors constantly now, and I will say it out loud because everyone is thinking it. A lot of drivers are armed now, not to play hero, to break contact and escape. I am not telling regular people to go buy a gun as a magic fix. A gun does not fix hunger. A gun does not fix water pressure. A gun is one tool for one kind of moment. Still, if you are traveling, understand that the people around you might be carrying and you act accordingly. No sudden moves, no road rage, no chest thumping. That last part is hard for people. People want to believe the old social rules still apply. Some do, some do not. You have to read the room. Trent, stay safe. If you hear anything solid about fuel terminals reopening or about organized convoys, call us. Now I'm going to tell you about the next layer of catastrophe, the one that sneaks up in the dark. Sewage, trash, refrigeration, the stuff nobody wants to think about. In parts of the city, trash has been sitting for a week. That turns into rot. Rot turns into flies when it warms. Flies move between trash and food. People start getting sick. Sewage backups are starting too because pump stations need power and maintenance. If a pump station loses power and the generator fails or has no fuel, sewage can back up into streets and basements. If you have a basement, watch your floor drains. If you smell sewage, do not ignore it. That water carries disease. Keep kids away. Refrigeration failure is another quiet killer. People have meat in a freezer. Power flickers. Freezer warms. Power returns. Freezer cools. Folks think it is fine. That cycle can ruin food. Then you eat it because you do not want to waste. Then you get sick. Then you get dehydrated. Then you need medical care in a time when hospitals are already strained. If you have doubts about food safety, cook it thoroughly. Still understand cooking does not fix everything if the food is rotten. If it smells off, if it is slimy, if the package is bloated, do not gamble. People have been asking about unpaid workers again, specifically about utilities. I can confirm that utility crews are still working, but they are thinning. One crew member told me straight, "We are working because we do not want to watch the city go black and because we are hoping pay resumes." Hope is a currency too. It runs out. When hope runs out, crews stop showing up. If you think the grid is unstable now, picture it after another week of missed pay and threats in the field. I am going to take another call. Caller, go ahead. Daniel, it is Aisha. I am calling from a stairwell. I have maybe 10 minutes. Things got worse since last time. We had a surge last night, not from one event, but from everything. Dehydration, infections, panic attacks, people coming in after fights at stores, people coming in because they got caught in a fire and inhaled smoke, people coming in because they were trying to siphon gas and they burned themselves. We also had a security incident. A man came in demanding antibiotics. He did not ask, he demanded. When the doctor told him we could not prescribe without evaluation and without supply, he started yelling that we were lying. He reached over the counter. Security stepped in. He swung. He got restrained. Then 3 people in the waiting room stood up, not to help him, to try to rush the supply door behind security. That is coordinated. It was not random. We locked down. We had to call police. Police came late. When police arrived, the crowd outside had grown because people saw the lights and thought it meant something. It felt close to turning into a full breach. We held it. Still, we used up staff energy we do not have. We are also running low on oxygen canisters for transport. We are running low on sterile saline. We are reusing things we never used to reuse, within safe guidelines. Still, it is not what we trained for. Another thing, we had to divert 2 ambulance crews to a different hospital because our generator failed for a short window. It came back. Still, that window was enough to scare everyone. You can run a hospital on generator, yes, but only if that generator is maintained and fueled. Maintenance and fuel are not guaranteed now. Aisha, I am going to ask you a question that people will hate because it forces choice. If the system keeps degrading, what do you want people to stop doing so they stop flooding your emergency department? Stop coming in for reassurance. I get it. People are scared. Still, we are not a comfort station. If you are not having a real emergency, you need to stay home. If you come in because you are anxious and you want someone to tell you it will be okay, you might be taking a chair from someone who is septic. Stop coming in because you are hungry. I hate saying that because it sounds cruel. It is not a moral judgment. We do not have food for the community. We have a limited supply for patients. If you are hungry, you need to find community food distribution, churches, mutual aid, whatever is working in your area. And please stop doing risky fuel stuff. People are siphoning gas with their mouths. They are inhaling fumes. They are spilling fuel on hot engines. They are lighting cigarettes around vapors. We had 2 burn cases and 1 chemical pneumonia case in one shift. That is not an accident. That is desperation plus bad information. Do you think the violence at hospitals is going to increase? Yes. Unless there is a strong external security presence, yes. Hospitals are targets because people assume we have meds and generators. We do have some, not enough. If you are listening and you have a family member in a hospital, be prepared that we might discharge earlier than you expect. Not because we want to, because we need beds and we need to reduce risk. Also, keep paper records. Bring them. Bring med lists. Bring allergy lists. Our computer systems are not always accessible. When we cannot access them, we revert to paper. That slows care and increases errors. We are trying. Help us. Aisha, thank you. Get back safe. Call again when you can. That call is the reality nobody wants to sit with. The hospital is not a fortress. It is a pressure valve. When pressure rises everywhere, the valve breaks. Now, I want to tell you about the most dramatic thing I personally saw in the last 24 hours because it forced a decision that still sits in my chest. On my way back from checking the distribution fire, I took a side route through an area where a grocery store had closed early. The parking lot still had cars. People were standing at the doors. The doors were locked. Someone had posted a sign that said, "Closed due to safety, no staff." People started banging on the glass. Not all of them. A handful, then more. A man shouted that he had kids. Another person shouted that they had money. Somebody else yelled that money did not matter. A pickup pulled in fast. 2 men jumped out and started pushing toward the front. I stayed in my car, engine on, doors locked. Window cracked enough to hear. One of the men had a handgun in his waistband visible. He was not waving it, but it was a statement. People stepped aside. The men yelled for the manager. Nobody came. The crowd tension spiked. Someone threw a bottle. It hit the glass and cracked. That sound changed everything. People surged. The men with the gun got shoved. The gun came out into a hand. It did not fire. Still, once a gun is out, the room changes. I had a choice in that moment. Drive away, stay safe, go back on air and report it. Or try to intervene, which would be stupid and would likely get me hurt or killed and would not stop hunger. I drove away. I hate that. Still, that is the honest decision. If you are listening and you think you are going to be the person who calms a crowd, understand crowds do not calm once the glass breaks. You can be right and still get trampled. You can be kind and still get robbed. Sometimes the safest decision is leaving and warning others. 5 minutes later, I heard sirens. I did not go back. I heard later that the store got breached and some people got hurt in the crush. I do not know the details. I do know this pattern will repeat. Stores that close become magnets. Locked doors become triggers. If you can shop early, shop early. If you see a crowd forming, leave. Hunger makes people irrational, and you cannot talk someone out of hunger in a parking lot. I am going to put some practical information on air again because it saves lives. If you have a grill and propane, use it for boiling water, cooking rice, cooking beans, making soups, not for comfort cooking. If you have a camp stove, same. If you have a generator, do not run it all day for television. Run it in short windows to recharge devices. Keep a freezer cold. Run a fan. Pump water if you have a well. Generators burn fuel fast. Fuel is not coming back normal. If you have neighbors, talk now, before your street is scared. Make simple agreements. Who has medical training? Who has tools? Who has a way to cook? Who has a vehicle? Who has elderly people? Who has babies? Do not publish it. Do not announce it online. Just know it. People who plan together break slower. People who hide in their house and pretend it will blow over get surprised. Surprise kills. Maya is tapping the fuel log again. We have maybe another hour on grid. Then we have to decide whether to spend generator time broadcasting or save it for another day. That is the kind of choice I never thought I would make in radio. Keep talking to the community, or save fuel for later when the community might need you even more. The answer changes day to day. Here is another catastrophe that is building under the surface: eviction and foreclosure chaos. People assume if the economy collapses, nobody enforces rent. That is not how it is playing out everywhere. Some landlords are ruthless and still trying to enforce. Some cannot enforce because courts are backed up and police will not show. Some tenants stop paying because they cannot. Some stop paying because they can and they think it is free now. That creates fights. That creates forced moves. Forced moves create camps, cars sleeping, overcrowding with relatives, and that creates conflict and sickness. If you have spare space and you trust someone, you might be asked to house them. That is a decision with risk. Do not make it impulsively. Still, do not assume you will never be the one asking. I want to challenge another assumption I hear constantly. The government will step in. Parts of government will, parts will not. Even when they try, they move through the same broken logistics. A National Guard truck still needs fuel. A relief warehouse still needs staff. A distribution plan still needs security. Money cannot buy what does not exist on a shelf. Orders cannot move what no driver will haul. Do not build your plan around rescue arriving on schedule. Build your plan around what you can control. Before we cut again, I want one more voice from the ground. A civilian voice, not a worker. Just someone living through it, because that is what most of you are. If you are calling, keep your location general. Keep your name real. Keep your story honest. Caller, go ahead. My name is Denise. I am in the Beachmont area. I am older. I am retired. I used to be a school cafeteria worker. I am calling because people keep acting shocked that food runs out. I have been poor. Poor is not new. The difference is now the people who were comfortable are scared too, and they do not know how to act when they cannot buy their way out. Yesterday, my neighbor knocked on my door, a man I have waved at for years and never talked to. He asked me if I had extra canned food. He did not ask politely at first. He came in hot. He calmed down when he saw my face and realized I was not a store. I was a person. I gave him 2 cans because he has kids and I am not heartless. Then I told him, "You do not come at me that way again." He apologized. He cried. A grown man cried on my porch. That is what people do when their pride cracks. I also want to tell people something else. If you are older and alone, do not sit in your house and pretend no one notices. People notice. They will come. Some will come to help. Some will come to take. You need at least one person who knows you and checks you. I have 2 women on my street and we check each other. We have a little signal with curtains. If the curtain is closed by noon, we knock. If there is no answer, we get the other neighbor and we decide what to do. That might sound small. It is not small. That is how you prevent someone dying quietly in a chair. Denise, thank you. That is the most real thing I have heard in a minute. Stay safe. That is the heart of it. The collapse is a slow unmasking of how many people were one missed paycheck away from fear and how many systems relied on everyone staying calm. Once calm breaks, routines break. Then you see who people are under pressure. Some become generous, some become dangerous. Most become tired and confused, and capable of either depending on the day. I am going to loop the water disinfection instructions now, because Eddie was right. Bad information is getting people hurt. If you can boil, boil. If you cannot boil, and you must disinfect small amounts, use plain unscented household bleach. For 1 gallon of clear water, add 8 drops, stir, wait 30 minutes. If the water is cloudy, double that, stir, wait. The water should have a slight bleach smell. If it does not, repeat the dose and wait again. If you do not trust yourself to do this correctly, do not improvise. Find boiled water or bottled water or a trusted source. Write this down, share it with neighbors. Do not guess. Maya is signaling we have to cut soon. The grid is unstable again. We might lose power without warning, and we do not want to be mid-sentence when the transmitter drops because people panic when the voice cuts. I would rather end clean and come back than vanish. So here is what we are doing next, and you can copy the mindset if it helps. We are setting our next broadcast window for a time we will not announce. We will be on when we can. Check in every hour on the hour if you have batteries. If you are hearing us, that means we found a fuel window in a safe moment. If you have urgent public information, use voicemail if the system holds, or leave a message with someone who can travel, and physically post it at a community board. One last thing, and I want you to actually think about it, not just nod. This collapse is teaching everyone the same lesson. Comfort was not stability. Convenience was not security. A lot of people mistook the two because the system ran smoothly for a long time. Now it is not smooth. Now you do the work. It is not heroic work. It is boring work. Water, food, sanitation, neighbors, calm. That is survival.